Mysterious Armageddon prophecy revealed, witness how the final battle will unfold. Few knew what truly happened that night in the arid lands of Israel, where whispers of destiny collided with fear. Under a sky thick with foreboding shadows, an ancient prophecy stirred to life, sparking tension that crackled like lightning in the air. The people murmured, eyes wide, hearts thundering in their chests. They could feel their world was on the brink. Amidst the ancient hills, a lone figure appeared, cloaked in the dust of ages past. Elijah. His presence sent shockwaves through the crowd. "The storm is coming," he bellowed, voice cracking with urgency. The very earth seemed to tremble in response. What did he know that they did not? The air grew heavy, filled with electric anticipation. Biblical prophets had long foretold of a final battle. In these last days, all nations would rise against each other. Signs of the end times lingered at the edge of their lives like a ghost. Diseases, wars, and natural disasters were entwined in a grim dance as the echoes of Scripture reverberated in their minds, ominous and unavoidable. The Scriptures spoke of darkness covering the earth, and yet, glimpses of hope flickered for those who remained faithful. But what could faith do against an army of shadows? Then, without warning, the ground quaked violently, as if trying to unearth long-buried secrets. People screamed, clutching each other as panic spread through the crowd like wildfire. Some prayed, clinging to their faith, while others yelled skeptically, questioning if a miracle still resided in the depths of their despair. Tensions rose. Was this the prophesied sign of Armageddon? Elijah raised his hands, veins straining against the weight of expectation. "Prepare yourselves. The final battle approaches. Choose now whom you will serve." His eyes burned bright, a flickering flame in a looming abyss. Anyone watching could feel the heat of his conviction, igniting their own flickering spirits. But in the cacophony of fear and faith, a chilling realization hovered in the air like fog. Would they ever truly be ready? What if the final choice they had to make was beyond their comprehension? Mysterious forces swirled around them, resolute in their quest for destruction, while deep within, the hope of salvation wrestled for life. And there, amid the chaos, a small child raised her hand. "Will we see the light again?" she asked, voice trembling yet brave. Elijah paused, his heart aching in response. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As silence descended momentarily upon the crowd, the child's innocent question echoed in the chasms of their hearts. Elijah's gaze fell upon her, and in that fleeting moment, the weight of his prophetic burden lifted slightly, revealing the tender humanity interwoven with the looming destiny. "Child," he spoke softly, "light always rises from the ashes. But it may not come as you think." The hum of anticipation was drowned out by the trembling earth, yet there was a clarity in Elijah's voice, a thread of faith woven through the tapestry of fear. He turned his gaze upward, the gathering clouds appearing as dark as the hearts of the people, yet within them, he sensed the stirring of a solitary star waiting to burst forth. "All has been foretold," Elijah proclaimed. "The darkness shall come, but there will remain a remnant, a flicker that can spark a great fire. Listen not only to the rumblings of the earth but also to the whispers of hope." Tension lingered in the air as he gestured toward the horizon where the shadows were thickest. "War is upon us, yet it is also a time of choice. You stand at the crossroads. Will you walk in fear, or will you tread the path of faith?" Even through the valley of death itself, a murmur rippled through the gathered crowd. They had come seeking answers, yet their hearts were torn between the plausible dread of chaos and the distant promise of salvation. The villagers glanced at one another, and within their gaze was fear mixed with the faintest glimmer of hope. From the back of the throng, an elder stepped forward. His face was lined with the wisdom of years, salt and pepper beard framing sunken cheeks filled with sorrow and resolve. Elijah. He called, voice trembling with age. What of those who walked away from faith? What are their fates in this final hour? Elijah's brow furrowed. The prophecies speak of reckoning, yes, but also of grace. In these moments, the heart that stirs for redemption, even at the last breath, may yet find the light. His words danced in the air, unnoticed by those whose hearts were hardened by despair, yet, as he spoke, the ground shook again, this time more violently, splitting the earth beneath their feet. Cries of terror rose, drowning out his voice. In the chaos, the child clutched her mother's hand tightly. Will we make it? She asked, eyes pleading for assurance. Elijah's heart ached anew for the innocent, for those who did not bear the weight of prophecy yet felt its urgency. He turned his gaze back to the horizon, sensing an ancient presence flowing through the lands, unseen yet profoundly powerful. The path may grow dark, he said, but the dawn is relentless. In those moments, the sky began to crack, and the first audible thunder echoed across the landscape, as if heralding the arrival of swirling forces unseen. The wind swirled with a growing intensity, propelling the question deeper into the hearts assembled. What if the dawn they sought was not simply a return to light, but the birth of a new reality altogether? Elijah raised his voice, steady against the howling winds. Prepare your hearts. It is not merely a battle of flesh and blood but one of spirit and resolve. When shadows come, where will your light be found? As the crowd shifted uneasily, the child once again raised her voice above the din. But how do we find that light, prophet? Elijah's heart trembled as the child's query lingered like a soft flame in the impending storm. He saw in her eyes a mirror reflecting the struggle within every soul present. Seek it within yourselves, precious one, he replied. For the battle is not outside, but within. It is there you must look to see the dawn. And as the winds screamed the prophecies of old, each soul stood trembling at the precipice of choice, wondering what will they uncover within themselves when the final battle unfolds. The winds howled with an otherworldly urgency as the crowd stood frozen, an array of anxious faces turned upward toward the churning sky. In that charged atmosphere, Elijah remained resolute, anchored by divine resolve yet feeling acutely the weight of uncertainty pressing upon him. Do not be afraid of the darkness, he implored, his voice steady amidst the chaos. For what you fear is often a shadow of understanding yet to bloom. It is in darkness that the seed of your salvation is sown. Each word hung in the air like a fragile promise, trembling yet unbreakable. The elders whispered among themselves, the uncertainty in their hearts sowing seeds of unrest. One stepped forward, shaking with fervent inquiry. And what is this seed, Elijah? What shall we nurture, lest we wither before the dawn? How can we prepare our spirits for that which you call a final battle? Elijah's heart swelled with compassion. The seed is your love, your forgiveness, and your trust, which I have seen flicker within you all. It is the light of knowledge that resides in the depths of your hearts. To battle in these final hours is to face your own shadows, to embrace the vulnerability of your spirit. As he spoke, the heavens rumbled, reverberating with a gravity that seemed to echo the concerns of those present. A flash of lightning illuminated the landscape briefly, revealing the anxious faces caught between doubt and faith. The child, still clinging to her mother, whispered again with the innocence only she could muster, "But what if the shadows are too deep, Elijah? What if we do not have the light to fight?" In that moment, the air was electric with the swirling thoughts of the crowd. They felt, to a person, the weight of her question. Elijah knelt before the girl, lowering his gaze to hers, eyes filled with both the wisdom of age and the tenderness of an eternal spirit. Do not think you must possess all the light alone. Each of you carries a spark. Together, under the shadows, you can ignite a fire strong enough to push the darkness back. Remember this, light grows brighter when shared. As he lifted his gaze from her, he caught sight of figures looming at the edge of the crowd. They were strangers, their presence foreign yet familiar, cloaked in shadows as if they were souls from the depths of despair. Their eyes glimmered with an inexplicable sorrow mixed with a fleeting hope. "What say you, prophet?" one of the figures called out. We are those who wandered far from the light, engulfed in our own darkness. What of us in this hour of reckoning? Elijah's heart ached at their plight. You too have the capacity to seek the light, he proclaimed with fervor. There is no shadow so deep that it cannot be pierced by a single spark. Regret is but a cloak, if you wish, you can shed it. Steps can be taken even in the darkest moments if only you start walking toward the glimmers of gray still surrounding you. Their eyes widened, breaths caught in the tumultuous air filled with possibility. The crowd hushed as if struck by a collective realization. This was not merely a call to defend against the encroaching darkness but an invitation to embrace the fullness of their shared humanity, to move toward one another in their brokenness and tend to the light within. As the thunder rolled overhead, a tangible wave of hope swept through the throng. Small voices began to murmur affirmations, pledges of intent to support one another. Yet with this newfound resolve came an unsettling reality. Could their collective light be enough against the vast tapestry of shadow looming before them? In the unfolding drama of the sky, Elijah felt the gravity of the moment. The question hung suspended, not just in the air but within every heart present. Would their conviction and unity be strong enough to face this final confrontation? And, as the storm gathered its strength, could they transcend their individual fears to stand together as one? As the winds howled with raw intensity, darkness encroached like a creeping fog, thickened by the urgency of the moment. Elijah felt the weight of expectation settle heavily on his shoulders, yet amidst the storm, hope flickered like a small flame waiting to be stoked. The murmurs of resolve among the gathered crowd were stitched together with a fragile thread, yet it held promise. The strangers, now stepping closer, each bore a history carved into their weary faces. Some were marked by despair, which clung to them like a shroud, while others glimmered with the faintest hint of belief, as if they had come seeking answers they had long since abandoned. Elijah, sensing their longing, lifted his hands toward the turbulent sky, imploring the heavens for an answer that would unify them all. Seek not just the light alone, he urged, his voice cutting through the hum of uncertainty. For in this gathering, each of you harnesses a unique fragment of truth. The shadows are insurmountable when faced alone, but if you illuminate one another's darkness, the path forward will become clear. A murmur rose from the throng, weaving itself around the air, infusing the moment with a fragile yet palpable energy. Each stranger seemed to wrestle with their own battles, an older woman burdened by loss, a young man haunted by poor choices, a child bereft of childhood dreams, all brought to this moment like moths to a flame of existence. Can we truly do this together? A voice called from the edge of the multitude, trembling with a blend of skepticism and yearning. The crowd turned as one to the speaker, a man whose sorrowful gaze seemed to hold the weight of many past mistakes. His words hung in the air, reflecting the fears each held close to their heart, the fears that threatened to spiral them back into isolation. Elijah took a measured breath, feeling the pulse of conviction rising like the tide. The question is not whether you can, but if you will. He stepped toward the man, determination igniting his own spirit. Will you choose connection over solitude? Will you share your burdens rather than hide them? For unity is the first weapon against darkness. The crowd absorbed his words, the gravity of choice dawning slowly. They began to shift, moving closer to one another, creating an unbroken chain of hands and hearts. Laughter flickered unexpectedly upon the face of the young girl holding tightly to her moth-era, a sound so unexpected, yet as stirring as a clarion call. I can feel it, she exclaimed, excitement bubbling within her. The warmth. It's like fire. Elijah's heart swelled in recognition. The child felt the collective spirit of their humanity igniting. Trust in this warmth, child, for it is the bond of understanding that weaves through each heart, he responded with a smile. Yet, amidst the simmering hope, a shadow loomed larger on the horizon. An unsettling thought crept into Elijah's mind, the sinister forces gathering on the edges of their world. The question of whether their united strength could withstand the looming darkness settled uneasily within him. He recalled the prophecies he had pondered in solitude, verses that spoke not just of light but the inevitability of trials that must test their resolve. As the storm intensified, reality struck anew. Despite their truth, forgiveness, and unity, one burning question remained in the hearts of those assembled: if they could ignite a flame of hope together, what would be demanded of them in the seeking of that light? Would their collective light stand resolute against the vast darkness on the horizon, or would they all be swallowed whole by the shadows they faced? The echoes of uncertainty swirled anew, leaving a strange heaviness hanging in the air, an unquenched thirst for understanding. The winds raged louder, swirling around the gathering in a chaotic dance, but within the circle forged by clasped hands, warmth began to radiate, battling against the encroaching cold. Elijah stood steady, anchored in the profound moment unfolding around him. The darkness of the storm mirrored the turmoil within each heart present, yet there was an undeniable light flickering in their midst, a hope not governed by circumstance but born from their collective will to stand together. With each passing moment, the gathering transformed. As the multitude stood shoulder to shoulder, the burdens of the past began to loosen their grip, each person revealing fragments of their histories, insecurities, and aspirations. Elijah watched as layers of shame dissolved beneath the gentle weight of shared vulnerability. There were stories woven of loss and regret, tales of dreams flickering out and the faintest glimmers of belief that refused to die completely. A voice rose above the rest, resonating with a fervor that pulsed through the air. "We have known darkness, but it does not have to be our end." The voice belonged to a woman standing at the forefront, her eyes ablaze with purpose. "We can create a new beginning, not just for ourselves but for those who cannot stand with us today. Let us be the light we seek." Elijah felt the energy spiral, lifting each heart to a higher understanding. He marveled at how a simple exchange of courage could catalyze a revolution of the spirit. As he surveyed the faces illuminated by the possibility of tomorrow, an urge surged within him, one that reminded him of the sacred narratives he held dear, teachings that spoke of unity amid trials. Yet, in that storm, a flicker of doubt curled at the edges of his mind. Elijah's thoughts drifted toward the ancient tales of battles waged not just against physical foes but against the creeping shadows of despair that threatened to quench hope. Had not every generation faced its reckoning? The prophecies were clear in this moment. Trials and tribulations were not merely obstacles, they were a means of deepening faith, of refining purpose. The gathering swayed, an undulating sea of unity, yet as if beckoned by some unseen force, he felt the ground beneath them begin to tremble slightly, an ominous reminder of the earth's pulse resonating with their plight. It was as if the universe itself was entreating them to consider the magnitude of their choice. Would they remain steadfast in their striving for light, knowing that the confrontation with darkness was imminent? Elijah's gaze fell upon the child, awash in innocent wonder, and it struck him, was unity for the sake of self-preservation, or did it hold a higher calling? What if our strength lies not merely in resisting the darkness but in how we engage with it? He mused aloud, raising his voice to call for their reflections. A ripple of contemplation coursed through the crowd. Hands clenched tightly together, yet uncertainty glimmered in their eyes. "What shall you be willing to sacrifice?" Elijah pressed softly, the essence of his inquiry curling into the air like smoke rising from a fire. "What truths will you seek to uphold, and what burdens will you let go of in order to fight bravely?" As they pondered the weight of his words, the winds moaned an unsettling tune that echoed their awakening. Each heart felt heavy with the burden of accountability, the fragility of hope resting delicately on the collective effort they were choosing to undertake. Elijah stood before them, enveloped in reverence for the miraculous tapestry of life that woven itself through their experience. His thoughts swirled, crossing the boundaries of time and prophecy, wondering how those who had walked before them had met their trials. Could their choices guide us still? He pondered that in the midst of rising uncertainty, the air thickened with unasked questions, lingering like unspoken prayers. If the masks of resilience were to be stripped away, would their true self stand ready for the fight? And more poignantly, would they discover strength in vulnerability, even as the shadows began to march closer? The winds shrieked, a cacophony that mingled with the deepening shadows of dusk, and within that turmoil, Elijah's voice softened as he sought to weave a story threaded with ancestral wisdom. "Long ago, our forefather Jacob wrestled through the night with an angel, a struggle born not of hatred but of longing and transformation." He spoke, watching as faces turned towards him, seeking answers in the storm. Jacob emerged not just as a man but as a nation, and in the quiet struggle beneath the weight of stars, he earned his new name, Israel, one who strives with God. He continued, the ethereal connection drawing tighter around them. In his fight, he found his true identity, revealing the paradox of vulnerability as a source of power. The crowd leaned in, the connection felt stronger than before, as though the story reached deep into their souls, summoning their ancestors' resilience. What if our own wrestling occurs not in the solitude of despair but together, amidst the tempest? How might the storm become a crucible for our rebirth? His words hung in the air, mingling with the scent of rain-soaked earth, growing more poignant with the pattering drops that began to whisper upon the dust. A man from the back spoke, his voice heavy yet filled with resolve. But what if we falter? What if our fears become the chains that bind us even tighter to the darkness? Though his question trembled with uncertainty, it sparked murmurs of agreement among the gathering. They all knew the weight of failing to stand against the storm. Elijah turned to him, feeling the weight of vulnerability once more. In history's lessons, we are shown that faltering is but a part of the journey. Even in despair, the remnant can rise. As if on cue, a flash of lightning illuminated the sky, casting a brief moment of clarity over the faces before him. He could almost see the fear morphing into determination, yet hesitation lingered like mist rolling over a dawnlit field. That we have all tasted grief, he said, his voice gentle but firm. And like Jacob, we must be willing to confront the essence of our struggles. As we hold hands, one by one, let us invite our fears to the circle. Together, we might face them, not as opponents but as messengers who reveal our deepest truths. The winds howled, flapping garments and tousling hair as uncertainty danced like playful spirits among the gathering. But beneath the storm's din, Elijah felt a shift in acknowledgement that faith bears its own burdens and wider hope carries the weight of vulnerability. In their willingness to unveil their struggles, barriers began to dissolve, each soul a thread weaving into an intricate tapestry of shared strength. The child from earlier, nestled against a woman's side, piped up, "What if we find each other lost in the storm?" And the innocence of the child elicited soft-hearted chuckles, but the timbre of his question lingered, a haunting echo of truth. "Then perhaps, in our seeking, we shall discover new maps," Elijah replied, sensing the undercurrents of connection. New ways to navigate both loss and illumination, for in every storm, there is an opportunity for revelation. Yet as he spoke, a whisper of doubt crept back in. Was it enough to merely seek light amidst the storm? Or did true transformation demand an acknowledgement of the darkness that loomed? As thoughts scattered like the winds outside, Elijah found himself wrestling with the profound question that blanketed them. If unity could emerge as a shield against the tempest, were they prepared to embrace the tumultuous journey ahead, risking everything to find their authentic selves hidden within the chaos? And as thunder continued to rumble in response, it beckoned, what remains unspoken in the shadows of our hearts, waiting to be revealed in the sacred gathering before the final reckoning. The rain intensified, a torrent that mirrored the turmoil within each heart gathered there. It became a symphony, a rhythm of nature that harmonized with the murmured prayers of those eager for direction. Elijah inhaled deeply, allowing the scent of fresh earth mingled with storm to awaken the memories buried within him. What do we truly seek in the face of such chaos? He contemplated aloud, an introspection that rattled the crowd gently, like the distant rumble of thunder. Is it safety, or is it purpose that we yearn for? For true safety often lies in the embrace of our vulnerabilities, whereas purpose is birthed from struggle. He found himself gazing at the faces illuminated by each flash of lightning, each visage a canvas reflecting life's tapestry woven with both joys and sorrows. A wise elder raised his hand, steady despite the chaos enveloping them. "Elijah, you speak of struggle, yet do we not fear what lies on the other side? Is the price of our transformation not burdensome? What if the darkness we seek to face consumes us whole?" His voice quaked with the gravity of an unknown destiny, reverberating like the thunder above. "Fear can be a formidable foe," Elijah acknowledged, nodding slowly. "But I call upon the legacy of Jacob, a man who faced what he feared most and emerged renewed. He wrestled through the night not alone, he engaged with the divine, and in that encounter, he transformed his destiny." However, Elijah continued, we must heed the echoes of history. A stronger bond is often forged in the flames of adversity, yet fear can lead us away from the very connection that may save us. Together, we must not only confront our personal shadows but also seek clarity in the faces of those around us. Each storm we face may pave the path to greater unity or deepened isolation. One woman stepped forward, her expression fierce yet contemplative. But how do we know when to push against the tide and when to allow the current to carry us? Are they not both forms of surrender? She paused, her eyes glistening. What if the battle is not just against the storm but within ourselves? A shudder rippled through the crowd as they absorbed her words. Elijah sensed the air thicken with an anticipation that danced between fear and hope. Ah, sweet sister, he responded gently, in questioning lies the crux of our struggle. It is the wrestling that births revelation. If we grapple with our questions and, with courage, voice our doubts, we may unearth truths that lie buried beneath layers of despair. With that, a wave of silence engulfed them, as though nature held its breath. The shared understanding rippled, a current weaving through the gathering, each soul looking towards the next, seeking strength in vulnerability. Yet, with this sense of unity arose a deeper wound, the unseen divisions lined with historical pain. Will we allow our past to dictate our journey forward? Elijah voiced softly, sensing a collective hesitation. He could feel the weight of generations upon their shoulders, fates intertwined with stories of exile, longing, and the quest for belonging. Perhaps the real battle is to confront not just the storm raging outside but the storms of mistrust and fear that brew within. His heart thudded within his chest, the moment felt pregnant with portent. In our struggle, let us discover that which has kept us apart. Even in moments of shared grief, we can let the light break through and pave space for understanding. The crowd, still unsure, exchanged cautious glances. Elijah's gaze fell upon the child once again, who now looked bewildered, utterly innocent to the turbulent intricacies of adult struggles. "What do you think, little one?" he asked, his voice warm with encouragement. The boy tilted his head, summoning a childlike clarity. "It is okay to be scared, but we can find our way if we are brave, right?" His simple response echoed through the congregation, igniting a flicker of hope in their hearts. "Indeed, dear child," Elijah replied, his spirit lifted. "Bravery does not erase fear, it teaches us how to walk with it. And in walking together, we may soon find clarity." As the rain poured down, mingling with the tears of the resolve-filled faces surrounding him, Elijah pondered on their precarious transformation. He understood that the journey ahead would demand not just courage but a collective embrace of the unknown, the willingness to confront historical scars, and the vision to see beyond the darkness. But with the storm swirling ever closer, he felt the weight of a pressing question: would they lean into their histories for the knowledge to guide them, or would they allow fear to wield its heavy chains and binding them away from the path of unity? In this sacred space betwixt struggle and hope, another haunting inquiry emerged. What unseen forces lay ready to challenge their resolve as they stood on the precipice of both revelation and reckoning? The rain ceased, leaving behind a muted stillness that enveloped the gathering like a thick veil. The air held an unspoken promise, as if nature herself paused to allow space for the unfolding human drama. Elijah stood silently, contemplating the weight of his words and the palpable tension that swirled around them. "Let us not dismiss this moment," he urged, the cadence of his voice weaving through the gathered souls. "What we feel, this uncertainty, it is but the beginning of revelation. In navigating our tribulations, we may glimpse the divine, for in our struggle lies the possibility of transformation." To his left, an elder woman trembled gently as fragments of her past danced through her mind, memories of suffering, of exile, and of betrayal. "Elijah," she asked, her voice quivering like the last leaves of autumn clinging to their branches, "how do we reconcile our history without allowing its shadows to taint our hopes? Can we craft a future while shackled to so many burdens?" Elijah regarded her with patience, understanding the depth of her inquiry. "The past may shape us, but it need not define our destiny. Just as the rain nourishes the earth, so too can our past nurture the seeds of understanding and compassion. We must honor those who came before us while also daring to reimagine the path ahead." That he turned to the others, encompassing them in a gaze that sought connection. "What if we used our scars to forge bonds? What if we transformed our collective grief into a tapestry of stories that celebrate resilience rather than fear?" The air crackled with life as murmurs of contemplation flowed among them. Elijah could feel the tides of thought shifting, inching toward newfound clarity even amidst lingering concerns. Yet, he sensed another storm brewing, one not of rain but of internal conflict. A young man stepped forward, his brow furrowed with the weight of doubt. But Elijah, if we share our deepest wounds, may we not also reveal our vulnerabilities to those who wish to exploit them? Can we trust one another in this quest for truth? Trust, like faith, often begins as a fragile whisper, Elijah replied softly. We must tend to it with care, allowing it to blossom in the fertile soil of our honesty. To guard ourselves too tightly may restrict not only the flow of connection but also our understanding of grace. Elijah paused, feeling the collective yearning for unity in the crowd, only to realize it was intertwined with their own fears. Recall the lives etched in the shadows of our stories, the ancestors whose battles shaped the landscape of our beliefs. In revealing our vulnerabilities, we might yet find common ground. Through the light of understanding, we illuminate the shadows. In that moment, the tension in the air shifted, turning electric with possibility. The question hung, a crystal-clear note amidst a dissonant symphony. What if their collective wounds could become a source of strength? As if answering the spirit of the inquiry itself, the earth beneath them began to tremble gently, as if the very ground sensed the stirrings of awakening. What if the storm without merely mirrors the tempest within? He ventured, the air thick with a newfound resolve. What if the battles we wage are intricately woven into the fabric of our shared existence? He looked upon them with fervor, his heart racing with the urgency to stir the embers of hope. Perhaps we are on the brink of witnessing the fruits of transformation through our tribulations, a united front against the divisions that threaten to consume us. Will we stand together in this moment of trial? An emerging voice called out from the crowd, hesitant yet brave. But is it possible to align our diverse ambitions? Our aspirations diverge so greatly. What if our unity falters under the weight of our differences? Elijah breathed deeply, understanding the tension of dissonance within their quest for harmony. If our aspirations were designed to be uniform, we would be little more than shadows of each other. True unity lies not in the absence of differences but in our willingness to embrace them, weaving them into a greater tapestry. Each tone a unique note in the symphony of life. As hope began to shimmer amidst the unease, Elijah was struck by a nagging question, one that danced on the periphery of their gathering. In striving for connection, how might they confront the divergence that could threaten their journey? Would they allow their past scars to become fertile soil for authentic understanding, or would the fear of exploiting those vulnerabilities lead them astray? The thunder rumbled again in the distance, and Elijah could feel the weight of a destiny awaiting its unveiling. The reckoning deepened by the whisper of unresolved differences. Which unseen forces would they face together as they traversed this precarious path of revelation? As the distant thunder rolled like an ancient warning, the gathering hushed, each person feeling the electric pulse of uncertainty threading through their hearts. Elijah stood before them, framed not merely as a prophet but as a fellow bearer of burdens, keenly aware of the myriad fears that danced at the edge of their collective awareness. In this moment of uncertainty, we are called not only to confront what divides us but also what unites us, he urged, his voice steady yet imbued with urgency. We stand at a crossroads, with every choice echoing through the corridors of generations yet to come. The forces that threaten division can become the very catalysts for a deeper understanding. A child, sitting on the fringes of the crowd, raised her hand timidly, her innocent gaze piercing through the tension. Elijah, she asked softly, why must we face battles at all? Couldn't we just choose peace and avoid the fight altogether? Elijah's heart swelled at her naivety, but within it, he felt the weight of wisdom. Ah, young one, peace is indeed a noble aspiration. But true peace, like gold, is often forged in the fire of conflict. To embrace our humanity is to accept that we carry both light and darkness within. Ignoring one side does not extinguish its presence, rather, it festers in silence. The crowd shifted, recognizing the truth in his words. An elderly man withdrew from the throng, his eyes sunken but filled with an earnest quest for understanding. What of those in our midst who refuse to see? What of the hearts hardened by past betrayals? How do we tenderly turn the tide of indifference? In the face of hardened hearts, Elijah replied, we must wield compassion as our greatest weapon. Understand that each soul carries its own story, often littered with scars invisible to our eyes. Engage them not with judgment, but with empathy. In the act of listening, we may uncover the humanity beneath the ironclad exterior. We must learn to speak in a language that ignites a spark of hope. Through the murmurs of agreement, a young woman stepped forward, trepidation evident in her stance. But Elijah, what if digging into these stories only stirs resentments? What if it unearths pain we cannot mend? Uncovering is not the same as unraveling, he reassured her. To uncover is to bring light to darkness, to allow healing through truth. A gentle touch can set free those spirits held prisoner by the weight of their history. Think of a garden choked by weeds. Only when we confront the roots can we cultivate new growth. As he spoke, the air thickened with a heavy weight, an impending sense of destiny. Elijah could feel the eyes of the gathered souls piercing through their shared apprehension, wrestling with the uncomfortable truths that sat heavily on their hearts. His gaze traveled among them, filled with a silent prayer, a hope that they would rise to the challenge before them. We are not called to smooth the edges of our existence or to sing in perfect harmony. We are called to dance through this chaos together with all its dissonance, to intertwine our struggles and triumphs until we find a rhythm in our shared journey. The earth trembled once more, an unsettling reminder of the power and fragility of their situation. Elijah felt a stir of unease, a hint that unanticipated forces were at play. Could the gathered souls, with all their doubts and burdens, truly embrace their shared humanity? In such unity, could they become a force that defied the very storms of division gathering on the horizon? With this question unfurling in the hush that followed, Elijah looked into their questioning faces, the revelation hovering just out of reach. Was the path to transformation teetering on the cusp of understanding, ready to be forged anew through their shared heartaches? Would they rise as one, or would fear sow discord among them? In the murky light of dawn, the tempest that had raged in the night gradually subsided, leaving behind a silence more piercing than the storm had ever been. The air hung with an electric expectancy that coursed through the hearts of the people gathered in the arid land of Israel. Elijah stood amidst them, a beacon of vulnerability shaped by the trials of the night, filled with the echoes of voices that had sought courage, understanding, and connection. As the sun's tentative rays broke through the swirling clouds, illuminating the faces of those who had grappled with their own shadows, the realization dawned that the final battle was not an external conflict but one that raged within their very souls. The scars of their histories intertwined with the hope they clung to, pushing them forward into the next phase of their existence. Look! Bellowed Elijah, pointing towards the horizon where a new light emerged. There, rising from the ashes of our struggle, is the dawn you sought. This light is a promise, a testament that even the darkest night must eventually yield to the morning. The gathered crowd exchanged astonished glances, the glimmering rays reflecting a promise of renewal, and understanding surged through the crowd like a swell of ocean waves. The collective spirit of their humanity had begun to awaken, a symphony of voices, hopes, and heavy truths melded together into a chorus, their burdens now woven into a tapestry of newfound strength. Yet Elijah sensed an urgent whisper in the depths of his heart, a reminder that transformation required action. Do not simply marvel at the dawn, let it stir you to rise. He cried, his voice ringing like a clarion call through the valley. What you witnessed last night was merely a shadow of the potential within you. Choose to embrace, to share your light. When darkness encroaches, let it be your collective compassion that structures a wall of unity. A young woman from within the crowd could bear the weight of her emotions no longer. Stepping forward, she raised her voice above the murmurs. But what if we stumble again? What if the light fades and shadows return? Her vulnerability echoed the innermost fears nestled in their hearts. Ah, dear sister, Elijah replied, his tone softened yet firm, the path of faith is not a straight line but a winding journey, both twisted and beautiful. Each stumble serves to remind us of our resilience and the strength found in unity. Embrace each moment of doubt, for therein lies a powerful lesson. Grace, remember, is not earned but given freely, an invitation to rise again. And with that, a palpable shift emanated from the very core of the crowd. Each person felt the tendrils of connection weave through them, an invisible thread binding their spirits to one another, illuminating the darkness that had cloaked their pasts. The woman who had spoken began to smile despite her tears, as if the softness in her heart had burned away the heavy weight of uncertainty. With this surge of inevitability, Elijah felt the very fabric of prophecy resonate with true, the collective awakening. Stand together, my beloveds. For the choice to fight against our shadows or to embrace our light is now at hand. Let not fear steer your hearts but let love illuminate your way. As thunder echoed once more in the distance, it felt less like a warning and more like a reminder that the storm was not something to be feared but acknowledged a part of the relentless cycle of life itself. Hands joined, voices raised, the people recommitted to one another, igniting the embers of hope into a blaze of conviction. Amidst this transformative ground, the child from earlier, who had previously asked the question of light, stepped forward once again, a glint of determination in her eye. I want to help. If we share our stories, our truths, then maybe we can protect the light forever. Elijah knelt before her, renewed by her innocent resolve. Yes, little one, for in your courage lies the profound hope we seek. Let each of your stories flow like rivers into the ocean of our unity. Together, we will create a sanctuary of love where shadows cannot dwell. The process began to unfold seamlessly. One by one, the people began to share their story. Takes transformed into testaments of survival, grief turned into narratives of resilience. Each voice became a thread in the growing tapestry, weaving connections that bridged their darkest hours with their highest aspirations. As each tale unfurled, a strength greater than any individual emerged, a vibrant community standing resolute against the unknown. Together, they began to plant the seeds of new beginnings. The burdens that once isolated them now invigorated their determination to push back the shadows encroaching on their collective light, and then, as a powerful surge of unity flowed through the crowd, the realization dawned across them. The greatest miracle lay not in the spectacle of the storm but in the everyday choice to stand unyielding in the face of despair. To transform dissonance into harmony through shared vulnerability and to ignite the flicker of hope within the depths of their being, with the first light of dawn spilling across the dusty landscape, transforming it into a vibrant tapestry of colors, Elijah raised his arms to the heavens, feeling an urgency coursing through him. With our hands entwined, our hearts open, we have emerged unity to force against the shadows. As we take this first step into the light, remember this, together we can illuminate even the darkest paths, and with that, as a powerful declaration sealed their transformations, the air filled with an electric zeal, and their spirits entwined, the people stepped forward into their new beginning. Standing on the threshold of now a tighter harmony, resonating deeper than any prophecy foretold, together they embraced the dawn, ready to reignite the world with hope, compassion, and unwavering love. What had begun as a scattered struggle against darkness had culminated in a radiant testament of light and eternal truth radiating through time. Unity, blessed by vulnerability, transcends all shadows, creating a new dawn with every shared heartbeat echoing the promise of a light everlasting.